campaign to repeal health care reform, House Republicans are determined to kill off an independent board that is supposed to help rein in federal spending on Medicare. Their rhetoric is predictably distorted, charging that 15 unelected bureaucrats should not be able to ration care. In truth, the Independent Payment Advisory Board of non-governmental experts is specifically precluded from rationing care, and Congress, not the board, has the power to say what cuts should be made. The Congressional Budget Office estimates that repealing the board would serve up board spending on Medicare to the extent of $3.1 billion over the course of a decade, but the board is especially important as a longer-term backstop against rising costs. Nevertheless, the repeal bill has already passed two counties with some Democratic support, and it is likely to pass the full House this month. A repeal bill pending in the Senate seems unlikely to pass, but there are no guarantees in an election year. The referral and reform law requires that the board, starting in April, make recommendations to reduce further federal spending on Medicare whenever its growth rate is projected to exceed that which has been mandated. The board is not only prohibited from making proposals that would ration care, it cannot call for changes in Medicare benefits or eligibility or increases in premiums or cost sharing. Instead, it will have to rely on cutting payments to health care providers. That is the slim basis for Republicans to argue that if payments are cut too deeply, many providers may stop accepting Medicare patients, and those patients will have their access to care rationed. However, a separate board of experts advises Congress whenever access is threatened and suggests ways to preserve it. The board will include doctors, consumers, and patient advocates who will be proposed by congressional leaders, nominated by the President, and confirmed by the Senate. Its recommendations would become law unless Congress approves alternative equal savings. Many congressional critics complain that the board will usurp their authority, but the board, a prime rule is to serve as a buffer between Congress and the powerful healthcare lobbies that drive up spending in Congress, which certainly needs their help. Mayor Michael Bloomberg of New York, Commissioner Raymond Kelly of the New York Police Department, and their supporters have reacted with defensiveness and hostility to the disclosure of constitutionally suspect surveillance of law-abiding Muslims in New York City, Long Island, New Jersey, and beyond. Mr. Bloomberg said the city's safety was not a political football to play with. Mr. Kelly accused critics of using the media to spread misinformation, and former Mayor Ed Koch said an editorial on this page raising questions about the program endangers the lives of 8 million residents of New York City. Those reactions ignore the views of the governor of New Jersey, a solidly conservative Republican, the mayor of Newark, many Muslim public figures, and leaders of universities where surveillance has occurred. They also overlook the real-life consequences of the surveillance. Michael Ward, the agent in charge of the FBI's Newark Bureau, said this week that such broad net surveillance had undermined the relationship with Muslims that officials had worked diligently to develop since September 11, 2001, making it more difficult to protect the public. The series of articles by the Associated Press that disclosed the surveillance and said New York police officers fanned out across Newark in 2007, photographing Muslim businesses and gathering data as mosque worshippers. Some are very wary of praying in public, joining faith-based groups, or patronizing some restaurants and shops. There's no correlation between the bottom houses of worship and minority